What's up, everybody? We are back. Day 2 of the Combine. Our first official look at some of the prospects. The defensive line and the linebackers went today. After yesterday, we got some of the GMs and execs. I'm Mike Dussault. He's Evan Lazar, Patriots.com. We're here all week for you from the Combine, and we got things started today. Evan, we got some prospects, but
Finally
really
talked to some players.
But the biggest news off the field, Jalen Carter, a huge piece of this draft, a guy that almost universally projected top 5 pick, if not one of the first 2. Looks like he's got some legal troubles now based on a car accident earlier this year. Sounds like it's not going to go too well for him here. We don't know if he's even going to get drafted now.
Look, first and foremost, you feel for the victims of the car accident and all those types of things. So football is secondary with all these issues, right? But I think the thing that you look at from a Patriots perspective is this was a lock to be drafted in the top 5 that 1 through 13, right? Like, how does 1 through 13 shake out now? I think it changes things pretty significantly in the top 10 of the draft, because if you're now the Chicago Bears and the Indianapolis Colts call, well, you might not want to drop to 4 because Will Anderson is now the number 1 pick on the board, a non-quarterback, and now you need to make sure that you're not going any lower than 3 so that you can secure the best non-QB in the draft. So this shakes up the entire top 5, and that is obviously going to have a trickle-down effect to the Patriots at 14. This is just the natural way of how this happens, and we'll see. I don't know how serious it's going to end up being for Jalen Carter. Maybe it turns out that it is something that still allows him to be drafted, but I think there's a good chance that he might not be drafted.
So big news there right off the top. As far as the Patriots go, we did connect with some of the Shrine Bowl guys, the guys that were coached in Las Vegas. Evan, you were out there. A number of guys just talking about how great it was to get NFL quality coaching from the Patriots, how intense it was. Just nice little follow-up from some of those players who carried that experience over to the Combine.
Yeah, and I also talked to Will McDonald from Iowa State, who's a fast-rising prospect right now, might creep into the first round, and he was coached by DeMarcus Covington at the Senior Bowl. So a lot of Patriots coaching connections from the showcase games. I thought some of the answers that they gave are really interesting. PJ Mustipher from Penn State, I thought, had the best answer out of anybody about how he actually watched Patriots film before the week of the Shrine Bowl to brush up on the scheme a little bit, and that sounds very Patriot-like. Now, he's a Penn State guy. They don't usually draft from that school, but when you hear that, and he said that he would go in and he watched a lot of Devon Godshaw because that's the same type of role that he was going to play in the Patriots defense, that was an impressive answer, I thought. Okay, This is a guy that's showing some foresight, showing some preparation going into this, and he felt like he hit the ground running as a result.
Now, we saw a lot of edge guys today. We know edge, probably not the biggest need for the Patriots in this draft. You've got Matthew Judon, you've got Josh Uche over there. Probably a place that could certainly look to improve some depth, maybe even hit free agency. But overall, just what do you think of the group? Will Anderson, probably the highlight of that group.
Yeah, I mentioned McDonald, too. I think is one of those players, kind of like a Josh Uche type. And those types of guys with speed and bend, that's going higher and higher and higher in the draft nowadays. I think there's some other guys that will go near the top that are more prototypical defensive ends, not necessarily those stand-up edge guys like Myles Murphy or Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech. The one guy that I spoke to, the two guys, the two LSU guys, the bookend LSU rushers, Ali Gay and B.J. Ojulari, they actually mentioned that they've been coached by Andre Carter, Patriot Andre Carter. So I thought that was interesting that they had a little bit of a Patriot tie there, but I think that those two guys are someone that if they're looking to replace Uche and maybe not thinking ahead that they might not be retaining Uche in his free agency, I think both those guys play like a Josh Uche but are more 2nd to 4th round players instead of somebody at the top of the draft.
So the other position was, of course, linebacker, and it's kind of a position of intrigue around the Patriots. They traditionally, you see them go with guys like Jawan Bentley, the 6'2", 240, big guys. This year they re-signed Jelani Tavai for a couple years. It makes you wonder, do they feel like they want to stick with this, balancing between those kind of linebackers and then the strong safety hybrid types with Kyle Duggar? Tough to tell, but you look at a kid like Drew Sanders, somebody like that, maybe. Trenton Simpson's another one. It's not maybe totally out of the question to think maybe one of those guys might intrigue them if they're going to adjust their scheme that they've been using.
It feels like at some point we have to get to the offseason where the Patriots really turn the page on how they evaluate that position. Off-ball linebacker, middle linebacker, you have to at some point evolve with the times. And they've talked a lot about it, and yet they haven't really done it on the field. And I think they tried with Mac Wilson, Raekwon McMillan, Cam McGrone doesn't pan out, right? Like I think they've tried to do it, but some of the names that we mentioned might be guys that they could actually turn the page to.
All right, last one, and I think personally this might be the position they actually tap from this day. A lot of big fat nose tackles, and we know, look, they brought Carl Davis back the last couple of years. It's a niche position, but it felt like the value that's there in the late day 3 that you could potentially get a guy who can just come in and be your nose tackle. Doesn't he doesn't have to redefine the game and be a 3-down player, but it just seems like there's a number of guys. I mean, even Gerard Clark, somewhat Boston native, Brighton High School guy that I talked to, monster guy, big arms, long wingspan. I know we love that. Guys that seem like they would fit right into that system in terms of two-gapping, being in the middle, controlling those offensive guards and centers, and allowing guys around them to make plays. To me, this seems like a position that it's not sexy, but it's one that you might be able to get some good value.
It's another position, too, where if you're going to stick to this odd front, where they're going to be a 3-4 type of defense, most teams nowadays are going to those shades or those one technique, one gap, get up the field defensive tackles. The Patriots are going to be one of those few teams that's still going to prioritize a true nose tackle in the middle of the defense. Then you might be able to steal one at the end of the draft that can actually play for you on 1st and 2nd down.
All right, well, that's going to do it for Evan and I here on Wednesday. Of course, we're going to be back Thursday. We got DBs and special teams, so the train just keeps rolling here in Indianapolis. Lots to see, lots to learn. It's great finally getting to talk to the players. We'll also get the on-field workouts tomorrow, so tune into NFL Network. You can catch, for yourself, you can see these guys work out, run 40s, bench, get measured, all that stuff right down the line. So we'll catch you tomorrow with more Combine coverage.